Right. So there was something I wanted to mention. Let me get this camera right. Hold on. All right, maybe that's better. Hold on. Okay. All right, y'all. So this is back to natural law. Okay. Natural law. I'm gonna pick back up at the sixth character. The sixth character of natural law. Take a look at this one. Question: which is the sixth character? Answer: to be reasonable, because its precepts and entire doctrine are conformable to reason and to the human understanding. So we can look at due process of law here. So you have to give notice, okay, or be notified, right? And there has to be some proof of notice. Okay, now that's reasonable, right? So in other words, no one can get a judgment against you without your knowledge of it. That's completely unreasonable, right? You wake up one day and all of a sudden all your stuff is gone, right? Somebody got a judgment against you. The sheriff comes out, takes your property. You don't have a clue what's going on. Nobody ever said anything. There was nothing put in the public record, right? And the public record is the government. Okay, y'all? So that is an example, or due process of law is an example. Notice. Notice is reasonable. Also what? Your right to be heard in a court of law. All right? That's also very reasonable, right? And if that court is not a real court, it's only reasonable that they don't have any power or authority to hear your case. Agree or disagree? You. Okay? And then your right to enforce, your right to enjoy that law. Right? You go out and do whatever it is that you're doing. Okay? You go out and do it. You enforce it. That's reasonable, right? Of course, because it's your right. It's your right to do it. So that, in my opinion, is a very good example of the sixth character of natural law. To be reasonable because its precepts and entire doctrine are conformable to reason. You notify somebody if you have a case against them. Y'all take it to the proper court that has the power to hear the case, right? And then you have a right to be heard. That would be based upon your nationality, right? And any treaties that are involved, okay? So since we are the rightful heirs of the vast estate of the Americas, North America, I'm from North America, right? My nativity is North America. My ancestors come from the South of America. So therefore, I have the right to use or invoke the Constitution for the United States of North America and the Treaty of Friendship between the Al-Moroccan Empire and the United States for North America, that Treaty 1836. I have a right to invoke that. Why? Because I've returned to the ways and the principles of my ancient foremothers and forefathers. That's Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Okay, Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. I've returned to natural law, right? So I have a right to invoke those powers that have been passed on to me, right? I've inherited them through my bloodline. So I can use them. I'm one of the people. I'm one of the beneficiaries in the preamble of the Constitution for the United States of North America. I'm one of the people. All right? I'm a people. Y'all got it? So I can use the diversity of citizenship. I can use the treaty. Okay? Peace and Friendship 1836 that I just mentioned. I can use all of that. All right? And so here we are. That's only reasonable, right? It's only reasonable. And all of the documents that preceded it. Okay? Reasonable. Due process of law. Not 14th Amendment due process of law. Not that. No. I don't want no parts of that. Okay, y'all? I don't want no parts of that. So, giving notice and being notified is only reasonable. Everybody would agree to that. Somebody want to make a claim against you, they need to notify you, and it needs to be in the public record so you know that they're just not talking, right? It needs to be recorded in the public record. All right? It needs to be held in the proper venue. It needs to be held in the proper venue. That venue has to have the delegated authority to hear the case. And then 3, you have the right to go out and do whatever it is, whatever that right is. So that's called enforcement. Okay? All right? All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. Question. Is no other law reasonable? Answer. No. For all are in contradiction to the reason and understanding of men. Okay, so in the case where your due process of law, for example, has been stolen from you, okay, anybody who knows about law, or even if they don't know about law, they understand that it's not right, okay, it's wrong, it's not reasonable. We all know that. We all know that, okay? So these laws, well, not laws, these codes and statutes and policies that allow somebody to just come in your house, take your property without due process of law, we all know that that's not right, especially when it comes to taking your seed, okay? Or attempts to take your life, right? Any type of property. Any type of property. But yet, this is what corporate statutes, policies, and codes attempt to do, right? That's what they attempt to do. That's all part of the escheat and the attainder, okay? So let's continue. Let's continue. It says no. For all, the question is no other law reasonable? So in other words, natural law, according to the author, is the only law that's reasonable. Okay? So are any of man's laws reasonable according to the author? The author says no. For all are in contradiction to the reason and understanding of men, and tyrannically impose upon man a blind and impractical belief. All right? Now, in my estimation, what he's talking about is a law. Okay? So if you go out, a policy is not a law, a code is not a law, and a statute is not a law, an act is not a law. Right? So if you pretend that something is a law and it goes against reason and understanding, well, first of all, you know it's not a law. And then secondly, because it goes against your reason and understanding, you've got to have to believe it. Okay, why? Because it goes against reason and understanding. Okay, so you need to believe. And belief is not bound by the rigors of understanding and reason, right? It can be anything, you just believe it, but you don't have a basis for believing it. And these things can be tyrannical. All right? I hope I'm making myself clear. All right. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I need to find a place where I can work and do these presentations in peace. I don't know, maybe I'm going to have to rent. Maybe I'll rent a house if I can find a house or something in this area where I can go to and be able to do these presentations without distraction and interruption. Y'all think it's easy to do this kind of thing, this stuff, like what I'm doing? It takes a great deal of self-sacrifice, a great deal of energy, attention and time, sacrifice, and of course Federal Reserve notes. It takes a lot of Federal Reserve notes to do this. But anyway, so therefore, if your heart moves you, you can help share the burden, and at least, moral support, right? But this is not easy work. I don't know if it looks easy or not, but it's not, and it's extremely time consuming. Y'all don't realize how, I tell you, for example, I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to try to get here with at least 45 minutes to 1 hour to sit and do a presentation. And then I leave, I get a 30-minute break, right? And I try to put something together within that 30 minutes. And if I'm not able to, I come now. I'm at my afternoon break, okay? But I could have just went home and not done anything, all right? And then come back. But if I go home, I don't have time to do a presentation, okay? Because it's far. Not far, but the traffic. When you factor in traffic in Ho Chi Minh City, I mean, you during the day it can take you 10, 15 minutes, but during the lunchtime, it can take you hours just to get there due to traffic. All right, y'all? But I'm gonna have to, I think this community where I'm at is not so good compared to the places I'm used to going. It's not that good. Oh well. But it is what it is. Let's continue. It is what it is. Okay, next. It says, tyrannically impose on him a blind, impractical belief. Y'all got that? I associate that with religion. Now, not just religion like worship of a deity, like an organization, but religion as in worship of a government, right? Your government can do no wrong. Like a nationalistic religion, kind of like in the U.S., right? Kind of like in the U.S. It's idolatry, right? They don't understand anything about the democracy. They don't have a clue. They don't have any clue about how that corporate government works. None whatsoever. But they treat it like it's a god, and like the politicians are gods. Their administrative experts are gods. Okay? All based upon a belief that what? Everybody else is jealous of them because of their freedom. All of that foolishness. Right? All of that rhetoric and ridiculousness that they use to start wars with or steal people's stuff. Okay? So let's continue. Question. Are not other laws just? So when they're talking about other laws, they're talking about man's laws or man's statutes, policies, codes, and guidelines, etc. Are they not just? The author's answer is no. For they often exceed bounds. In other words, they go too far. Right? Man goes too far with his rules. So for example, Jim Crow, the Black Code, Children and Family Services, the administrative rules, right? They go too far. Mandatory vaccines. It's ridiculous, right? I remember way back in the day, when I first got into medicine, what was hot back then was concierge medicine, right? The right treatment for the right person and at the right time, like that. And you go in and everything was tailor-made for you. And now here we are, I don't know how many years later, almost 20 years later, they want to do mandatory vaccines. Everybody get the same vaccine. That's like going backwards, right? Every medical professional, every physician should know that that's outrageous. Okay, so they go too far. Why do they go too far? Because they're pursuing Federal Reserve notes and a program of genocide and property theft, land grab, all right, and control and power. Okay, so let's continue. Are not other laws just? Answer, no, for they often exceed bounds, either in rewarding deserts, okay, so they choose the winners and the losers. The winners get excessive benefits, and y'all know that's not right. All right, so Hunter Telmorto gives a peace sign, Shalawama, Islam to all the Moors, Genesis chapter 2, natural, rightful heirs of the entire planet, all of its resources, energies, etc., etc., etc. The House of Yasharala and all Moors are in fact the gods on the planet. That's right. The gods on the planet and the lawmakers. Moors are the substance and subject matter of the law, regardless of which family or nation that you come from. Okay? If you are Genesis chapter 2, you are the rightful heir. Okay? You are the rightful heir. All right. So Islam to all the Moors and Shalawama to all of the nations of Moors. All right. So let's continue. I lost my spot. Oh, yes. So the winners are selected and the losers are selected. So here we have the case where they implement genocide on the people. Okay? How is it done? It's done through science or alleged science. Okay? Now here's what everybody should be aware of. Just because some big institution, let's say a Harvard, MIT, or some other big famous institution, does research, and they make a claim or finding in the research, that doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's true. Okay, unless you can go back and repeat their experiments. Okay, and several people can repeat them. You know if that's true. Given their reputation and their history, me myself, I don't believe them. Science is nothing to me but religion these days, especially these days. Okay, and there's historical precedents to prove that. So, just because, and see, that's the way they do it. They'll bring their experts in. Doctor this, doctor that, research says this, survey says that. Hunter Telmorto, he's showing the Moorish flag. All right, I didn't get that last part. So we have to be very cognizant of their techniques and strategies to get people to fall for these new codes and statutes and guidelines. Factum. Okay, excellent. And guidelines, right? They are, in fact, everybody should remember that, word magicians. Word magicians, storytellers. That's been their whole MO from the beginning, create stories, right? And these research papers, much of them are just stories meant to convince you. And then they put a high-ranking priest, like a Dr. Fauci, or others who they elevate, put on the news, right? And get you to look up to them like they're some kind of deity. Okay? And then they tell you to do something that's totally against natural law and you do it. Or they say, we're going to do this, A, B, C, D, because of these reasons based upon this research. And you do it. You go right along with it. And you've been played like a cheap piano. How many times are we going to fall? Well, not we, but y'all going to fall for the okie doke. You've seen it a million times. I can tell you how many times you're going to fall. You're going to fall for it until you get out of religion. That's the truthful answer. Because you are under a spell. Brainwashed, under a spell. Okay? So let's continue. Okay, so are any other laws just? No, for they often exceed bounds, either in rewarding deserts, okay? So, for example, private prisons. Okay, there are winners, okay, investors and the owners of those prisons, okay, and the corporations who contract with them. Those winners were selected, right? They put people in prison for non-violent crimes, statutory crimes, okay? Statutory crimes. Lock you up and then they make money off of you. Okay, and then they say, well, it's not slavery. Okay, why? Well, because we made this corporation, because if Joe or Bob or David tells you to do A, B, C, and D, you're not going to do it. But if we create this fictitious corporation, right? Ooh, now we got you. You're going to do it. You're going to submit to it. Y'all see what I'm saying? So they made billions, and they're making billions. And the losers are the masses of the people, particularly the House of Yasharala, or let's say the Moors. All right? We're the losers. Why? Because we're in violation of natural law. Y'all heard? We're in violation of natural law. Okay? So we are outside of nature. Okay? So we need to come back to natural law. Coming back to natural law means following the Most High's commandments, Now, nature and nature's law, honorable behavior, all of these are reflected in the Constitution for the United States of North America and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1836. Okay, all of it. So that's what we need to come back to, right? So when you begin to live honorably, which necessitates leaving religion, okay? Because that is the corporate space. That is the dead space. That is the Dogon, external deity space. That's maritime and admiralty law brought on the land. So you've got to leave that. You've got to come back to nature and harmonize yourself with natural law, okay? And manifest higher self or honorable behavior. Having done so, you're back within the constitutional fold. That's how it works. Because that's based upon nature. Y'all know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start adding the Zodiac Constitution to these presentations. All right, y'all? I'm gonna add the Zodiac Constitution to it. I'm gonna show y'all some things. Okay? Let you see how all of this stuff is the same stuff. Same stuff. I'm going to show you. Okay? Now let's continue. All right. So some people are rewarded. Okay? All right. Others are punished. We just mentioned black codes, children and family services, the divorce, family court, all of that stuff. Okay. You know, it's a good example of this too, this topic. What is it called? What's the law for the black people? Not law, but the affirmative action. Right, affirmative action. Has been applied to white people, or so-called white people. Let me rephrase that. Has been applied to the female hybrid troglodyte nigger, Paleolithic colonist, who is classified, or who classifies themselves as white people these days. Okay, they're the primary beneficiaries, right? These are the wives of the slave owners and the colonists. Y'all see how perverted that is? It's unjust, okay? Unjust, unreasonable, etc. So it fits into this perfectly, in my opinion, okay? Affirmative action, all right? So now let's continue. Also welfare. I don't know what they call it these days, but welfare, right? Giving people just a pittance, just a little bit, so that they won't revolt. And then turning around and telling them that the man can't be in the house, right? Or creating a situation where the man can't get adequate employment to be able to take care of himself and a family. And you have stripped him of his inheritance. And stolen his nationality as part of his inheritance. But y'all know what I'm saying? So what's rightfully yours at birth, all of that wealth, you cannot access it. It's all been taken away from you. Okay, but this is an example of man's stuff in North America. All right, so let's continue. So it says here, which is the eighth character of natural law. The eighth character of natural law, answer rather, is to be pacific and tolerant. Because in the law of nature, all men being brothers and equal in rights. Interesting that they didn't say humans, right? I wonder if that was intended. But all men being brothers and equal in rights, it recommends to them only peace and toleration, even for errors. Okay, that's called civics, right? That's called civics. Okay, how to deal with problems in a way that doesn't escalate to war or or family battles, right? So let's go through this. Which is the eighth character? To be pacific. Pacific means passive, right? And tolerant. Let me tell you how I understand this. In nature, nothing happens, boom, just like that. Okay, for example, what we think about appears in our life, right? That's the Psalms 82:6. And ye are creators, ye are gods, ye are creative powers. Okay, so we have a creative faculty of the mind. They call it manifesting. Okay, the ability to create your own reality, whether you know it or not. Your condition and situation is your creation. Consciously or unconsciously, that reality, that fact doesn't change. Okay, but when you think about something, it doesn't happen immediately. It takes time for it to happen. It may take days, weeks, months, or years. Okay? Let's say you are always afraid of getting stampeded by elephants. If it happened, boom, as soon as you get that thought, boom, you get stampeded by elephants. No, that's not good, right? But if you continue that thinking, let's say over days, depending on where you're at on the planet, over days, weeks, and years, you will attract and create situations and circumstances that will put you in the position where you're going to be stampeded by elephants. It's just a matter of time. All right, that might sound crazy to some of y'all, but that's the truth. You create your own reality. So it's pacific. It takes time for these things to happen, and it's tolerant. It's tolerant, okay? It's tolerant, okay? So you can make mistakes in nature. You are penalized in proportion to your mistake, right? You make a small mistake, there's a small penalty. You make a huge mistake, that might cost you your life. Okay, y'all? So it's passive and tolerant. It takes time. And it's value for value. Because in the law of nature, all men being brothers and equal in rights. Let me rephrase that. In nature, all men are one consciousness. We are one consciousness precipitated or condensed into separate fleshly or physical bodies, but one consciousness. If you understand that, you would never hurt someone else intentionally, because that person is you, and he is also you. There's only one consciousness of man. Now, there's a consciousness for animals, or probably even per species. I mean, who knows? But for man, there's one consciousness. Some people call it the all. Some people call it universal consciousness, city consciousness, etc. Okay? But there's one consciousness. Now, what happens when you take the consciousness of man and mix it with the consciousness of a primate, a chimpanzee, an orangutan, a bear. Y'all know I've had this weird thought. Maybe I'm wrong. But I often wonder, where does an ape come from? You know, the big silverback. And I got this idea in my head. I don't know if it's true or not true, but I was thinking maybe an ape, the silverback, is a hybrid between a bear and a man. Maybe that sounds crazy, right? But if you ever look at the paws of a, well, let me rephrase that. When I saw the paws of the ape, the silverback, it reminded me of a bear. When I look at the way they sit, they remind me of a bear. Now, I don't know, but I'm just sharing that with y'all. I'm just saying. Okay? But what happens when you mix the consciousness of a beast with the man through genetic engineering? Is there a new consciousness that's created? What happens, y'all? We do know that the Paleolithic colonist, the hybrid, is animalistic. And that's not a guess. We look at its history, its interactions with us, right? And that they fear us just like animals fear us, right? So what's going on with that? What's going on with that? Right? Or is it not a matter of consciousness? Have y'all ever thought about that? If there's one consciousness for man and a different consciousness for beast, what happens when you hybridize a man and a beast? Clearly, through demonstration, we see that the Paleolithic Neanderthal, the Han Human, the human, has a different consciousness. Okay? It is not tolerant, are they? No. Not at all. Let's continue. To be pacific and tolerant, because in the law of nature, all men being brothers and equal in rights, it recommends to them only peace and toleration, even for errors. Now, have we seen peace and toleration with the hybrid troglodyte Paleolithic Neanderthal nigger? We have not seen that. But we, our ancestors, were tolerant of them. Okay? Well, let me rephrase that. The story goes like this. The scientific research was done in Mexico, in the Yucatan. All right? And the experimentation was done also in South America. So these creatures were created. The egg of a Moabite woman and the sperm of the Negro, the black chimpanzee, the most violent one, the most aggressive one. Okay? The intent was to make a soldier, make an animal that could communicate at the basic level, who could row boats, who could plow fields, and basically do anything that a man didn't want to do, and also be a strong soldier, okay? So they were created in South America. However, as that experimentation program progressed over the years, and I would suppose decades, they began to get out of control, eat people, all type of mannish, despicable behavior, including eating people. And so the story goes, our ancestors kicked them out, drove them across the deserts, all right? The deserts over in Africa, beat them, stripped them naked, okay? And because their willies were so little, they put a sheepskin over them to cover their humiliation, their little Peters, their little willies, okay? Covered it. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that that's where the Freemason gets wearing the apron, the sheepskin apron, all right? And that this is where the Greek fraternities and sororities talk about they call their people who entered with them, the initiates, they call them sands because they crossed the burning sands together. Y'all got it? So as our ancestors moved them out of South America across the burning sand, I guess it was the Sahara Desert, I'd have to look at a map. They beat them, made them walk, okay? It was completely humiliating. This is where the Greek fraternity and sorority hazing ritual comes from, all right? And then they were forced up into the Caucasus Mountains where they lived inside of caves, all right? And women would have 3, 4, 5 husbands because there was nothing to eat. One man could not provide for a woman. So she would have 4 and 5 men, husbands, right? And they would eat each other and kill each other. They were savages. This is why they're called themselves cavemen. This is where the term caveman comes from, all right? So, or Neanderthal, all right? So that's their story. And you know, there's more to it, but that's the basic story. I kind of lost my point here. What was I talking about? Oh, okay, all right. So yes, nature says that a man and a man, we are tolerant of each other, right? We don't resort to fighting. I mean, some of us do, but these are people who have been conditioned to live like the colonists, right? Or people who have been raised in a powder keg environment that's intended to produce that type of violent mindset. But go back to before the colonists were here, we were not living like that, okay? All right. So our nature is not to just erupt into violence or to go take somebody's stuff, right? That's not how we are. Why? We have the same consciousness. We know that we are the same at some level, right? But they are not like that. And I'm not putting them down, I'm just telling the truth based upon their history. Okay, they have a different consciousness, they are different. Okay? That's why I always refer to them as the hybrid troglodyte nigger or the hybrid troglodyte Paleolithic colonist or something like that to distinguish between the human, Han-Uman, the Hindi deity. And y'all, I posted a video the other day about an army of hybrid of half man, half monkey warriors. Now there's also some over the past 7-10 years, I would suppose, in Honduras, a civilization was uncovered using some type of radio technology. I forgot the name of it, where they uncovered a city, ancient city, and they had a monkey god, half man, half monkey, deity. So here we are again, Han Human, okay? Han Human, okay? But I think I've belabored that. Let's move on, okay? Let's continue. It says, are not other laws pacific? Answer, no. For all preach dissension. Now, isn't that what the hybrid troglodyte does? Isn't that what he's done in his history? Divide and conquer? They all preach dissension, discord, and war. And war. So these are his statutes, his policies, his codes. This is Christianity. This is Christianity, you Christians. Whatever excuse you want to make. Okay, but Christianity is responsible for more wars, more death and destruction, more escheat, more attainment than anybody else. Okay? And divide mankind. Okay, that's why people are so confused about who they are. Are you an Indian? Are you a Moor? Are you black? Are you niggas, Nagas? Who are? See, all divided. Mayan. All of these divisions, all of these brands, name tags have been created specifically to divide and conquer, okay? Pit people against each other. They did that all up and down Africa, all up and down the Americas. And they do it to this day. They have the woman against the man, right? The child or the seed against his mama and daddy. Y'all see this? That's the way they roll. All right? So they preach war, discord, dissension, and divide mankind by exclusive pretensions of truth and domination. This is Genesis chapter 1, the commission that was given to the hybrid by the quote-unquote Elohim. Genesis chapter 1, y'all go read that. Okay? It tells the created creature to have in subjection all creatures, okay, that are upon the face of the earth. And that includes Genesis chapter 2, man and woman. Not just the beast. It's Genesis chapter 2, man and woman. Genesis chapter 1, that created entity is a hybrid. Go back and watch the videos I've done on the topic. If you want to see that, I've showed it linguistically. And I've also demonstrated it by doing a comprehensive analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Okay? It's undeniable. In fact, I'll give you some highlights. The order of creation in Genesis chapter 1 is different than Genesis chapter 2. All right? If you've never done that, go and do it. You'll be shocked. But there's more to it than that. Much, much more to it than that. All right. Which is the ninth character? That's the question. Which is the ninth character of natural law? Answer, to be equally beneficial to all men. Okay, for example, all men benefit from what? Sunlight. All men benefit from nighttime, right? We get to sleep, okay? We all benefit from what? Electricity, the electromagnetic atmosphere. We all benefit from water, from the air, the atmosphere. We all benefit from it. Okay? All of the physical laws we benefit from. Okay, so let's continue. to be equally beneficent to all men in teaching them the true means of becoming better and happier. Okay, so this would be what? In law, commerce. Okay, commerce. Okay, so if you want to take it further than that, let's say the Ten Commandments. All right, the Ten Commandments, if you want to take it further than that. Question, are not other laws or are not the statutes, policies, and codes and guidelines beneficent just as the natural laws are? Well, let's see what the author says. Answer, no. For none of them teach the real means of attaining happiness. Y'all got that? That is true. None of them teach the return to nature and to operate at the higher self. See, that's all been hidden. All are confined to pernicious or futile practices. Okay, so that's religion. That's Jeremiah 8:8. All right, Jeremiah 8:8. And this is evident from facts, since after so many laws, so many religions, so many legislators and prophets, men are still as unhappy and as ignorant as they were 6,000 years ago. Y'all see that? Now remember that these kings, these monarchies or monarchs in Europe, they said that they got the right to rule from the deity. Well, if that's the case, why haven't they experienced, or men experienced, quote unquote, God's kingdom on earth? Why are people, especially since these hybrids have been in control, why are people miserable? And life on the planet has gotten worse. And everything is an emergency, right? All of these fake pandemics and epidemics, genetically engineered diseases, so prevalent. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to end it here, y'all. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. I hope this benefited you in some way or another. If you stayed here longer than 5 minutes, please like and share the video. Also subscribe. If you are offended, unsubscribe. Some people have unsubscribed because of the video I did on Taurus number 10. So yeah, unsubscribe and don't come back, because this is not for you. And I would rather you not be here than to hear it and be offended and go talking trash. All right. Anyway, I get with y'all on the next one. Don't forget to support my project to write the book of the law in Ibaryath and in English. And in that book, you'll be able to read the Ibaryath. You'll be able to read how I rendered each word in English, and then you'll be able to read the English of the whole thing. Okay, now I'm going to remove all of the mythology, all of the deceit and lies. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly what those documents say literally. All Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences will be removed. So if you feel it in your heart to support that, if you feel ashamed or even embarrassed, hopefully all y'all feel ashamed and embarrassed that we don't have our own book of the law, we're still using the hybrids book of the law, the same people who enslaved us and who oppress us to this day, who have absolutely no respect and who mock us. We're still using their documents. If you have any type of self-respect, any type of dignity, personal pride, etc., support this project so that I'll have the finances to put this book together, to produce it, publish, and market it, okay, without having to suffer eating soy sauce and rice. or finishing it and not being able to distribute it or marketing it. It takes finance, y'all, to do this. So stand up, everybody. All right, I'm Dr. Yasapa. I see y'all on the next video.